What's up, Airheads? We're back once again in the virtual Airstream studios. I'm Trae. That's Corey. How you doing there, Corey?
I'm good, buddy. It's my favorite week of the year. This is my Super Bowl. It's Masters week. I'm fired up.
Mm, yeah, Masters week and my birthday week. Not
Oh,
not
that's
my
right.
favorite. Not my
The
favorite week of the
the
year.
8th, correct?
Yes, yeah, not my favorite by any stretch, but
You
it's
don't like your
fine.
birthday?
I just don't care anything about it, uh,
You
one way
need
or the other.
you need help, buddy. I'm
Why?
not saying listen, no. I'm not saying that you need to be those fucking people. We all know them who are like, it's my
It's my
birthday month.
week.
Oh my
Yeah, or
week,
month.
yeah,
Yeah,
birthday
right.
month. I'm not saying you need to be that, but like you should. Well, I guess what you said was you feel nothing about it, but the but
I'm nothing. It.
But
Yes.
the expression you gave was kind of like just one more year to remind myself how closer to death I
Death.
am.
I am. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's not like turning 37 hits or
Right. I
anything,
mean, I don't get
but
like I almost forgot my birthday this past year, which gets more common as you get older because you got other stuff that's equally important. But like, I still enjoy it because like I get my meal and like everybody will for at least I won't say a whole day, but I can get everybody for 2 hours to do something I like, which is like watch The Departed and eat spaghetti.
yeah. Yeah, well, I'll be, out of town even, and Katie was like, "What the hell, really?" And I was like, "Well, it's my birthday. I should be
Yeah.
able to,"
Right.
it's not like if I was out of town on your birthday, which I am almost every year, by the
Yeah,
way,
yeah, that's hey,
almost
I'm out of town
every
on our
single year.
anniversary.
Yeah, like, I had, like, a month off the road earlier this year, and Katie was like, "So when are you back on the road?" And I was like, well, your birthday, that's when it starts back.
Yeah,
That's when
yeah, yeah. I
that's
remember,
when my vacation from the road ends is on
yeah,
your birthday, so yeah, if I'm
me
gonna miss hers, I'm damn sure gonna miss mine. Never once have I missed one of the boys' birthdays
well,
though,
me
and I
well that
intend to
and that
keep
is
that up.
that is more important. Me and you actually both had to celebrate our collective anniversaries together because we decided that instead of being at home for that, we would go to New Jersey.
Mhm.
So that was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, so let's see. Speaking of marriage, I guess this is a bit of a stretch. My topic today, where the Venn diagram
It's not a
overlaps
stretch.
between rich and poor. Well, I mean, I'm going to talk about some of that specifically, but the
Yeah.
topic is needing a lawyer. Now, this is one of
Hmm.
those things I'm sure lawyers would tell you. It's like, well, that's just all people. Everybody needs a
Yeah.
lawyer. But it seems like both rich and poor people more often need a lawyer than the rest of society. And we're going to get into some of the reasons why, and then mostly just talk about some funny court cases and stuff I found. And then history of Professor Cho on the subject of what? Oh, I know.
Vlad the Impaler, and I would like to go back and say to you something I've been saying for a while. It's not yes, of course, everybody needs a lawyer, but what this show is not saying things that only exist for these two people. It's how these two people deal with these two things. Therefore,
Right.
I don't find it to be a stretch at all. And most of the time, whenever I'm watching television and there's a high profile court case, it either is a super rich person or a super broke lunatic who had a car
Hmm.
bomb.
Yep. Vlad the Impaler, wild some bitch he was.
He sure was.
We'll wait till we get to that segment before I tell you the few things I think I know about him. He's one of them, not shrouded in mystery, but shrouded in lore for
He
sure.
is,
Vlad
yeah.
the Impaler is.
Mythological,
Yeah,
myth, yeah, that one.
yeah, he's mythed up. He's all
Hey,
mythed
hey,
up.
on myth,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's on myth. He's on myth. Vlad the Impaler's on myth.
yeah.
Smokes a lot of myth.
That'd be a great show, history show for me. Crystal Myth.
Crystal meth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that was one of my ex-girlfriend's stripper names, actually. Crystal meth.
Oh, go
Uh,
balls.
yeah. Just on the off chance somebody knows her listens to this, the girl, it doesn't matter. She wasn't a stripper, and also it wasn't her real name. It doesn't anyway. Whatever. So you had a up top subject, right, that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, when I was in the hospital getting ready for my baby to be born, I, of course, decided that I would do a little light work for POA. And really, what I was doing was just like, well, if I'm going to pass the time reading stuff, I think it should be stuff that's maybe pertinent to the show so that I can at least consider this me having done something. So I was just scrolling around to some like random facts about England and the greater UK area and some dumb laws that they have. And I just wanted to discuss those and pose some of them to you as trivia questions, if you don't mind.
Okay. So, all right. So I got to answer questions. Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
but like it's totally fine if you're wrong because how the fuck would you know?
Not for me, but anyways,
It's
go
not.
ahead.
It's not like trivia about history and stuff. It's like
Okay.
statistics and whatever. Trey, how many cups of tea per day are consumed in the United Kingdom? Do you think
Per person or overall?
overall?
Good
Overall, per
Lord.
day, per day,
I don't even know. 60 million,
higher,
80 million,
higher,
100 million,
higher,
200 million.
lower. It's 165 million cups of
That's
tea
crazy.
per day. That is fucking crazy.
What's their, I knew it would be like, what's their population? Do you know population of the UK? Let's see here.
I do not know, but go ahead and look that up. I
It's
assume they're
oh,
not.
damn. I was thinking their population, because, it's a pretty small
It's a
island.
yeah, but it's a kingdom still. It's like
Yeah.
that includes all of them.
But we've been there, and like there's a lot of open space. Like it's small, and there's a lot of countryside, a
Yeah,
lot of open spaces. But I knew it still had a lot more people than you would think. So I was thinking 30 million. I was thinking 30 million. They each have 2 cups a day. That's how I landed on 60 million. But it's actually
right.
they're closer to 70 million.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, which I did not expect. 70 million population, 2 point something cups a day gets you 160 million or whatever you
It
said. So
it's still wild
that's a
though that
lot of tea, buddy.
like 70 million is a lot of people. And again, this isn't just in England. This is in the greater United Kingdom. But
Yeah,
that's a
I looked up UK so
yeah,
that's the whole UK's
but
population.
that's a lot of people. Don't get me wrong, but it's insane that like America has 3.5 times the whole United Kingdom.
I don't know, buddy. I don't think it's insane at all. Do you know how much bigger we are than we're
Yes, no,
crazy
I know,
bigger. Like you
I
can
know.
go, over there, dude. They've got 3 different countries on the one island: Wales, England, and Scotland.
Yeah,
You could drive through all
yeah.
3 of them in like 3 or 4 hours or something like that. It
It's
takes you that long to get from Knoxville to halfway to Memphis or whatever,
it's
like in
true,
just
but
one state. Like
that's true, but there's a lot of the United States that isn't populated, you know? I mean, it's
I
getting
know,
it's
but they're like that too. I just
yeah,
don't. I
no, you're
thought
right.
again. I figured 30-ish. I think 70's higher than I
It's yeah,
thought it
it's
would
way
be.
higher than I thought. Yeah, for sure. But like how many is so like the United Kingdom is obviously Scott not excuse me, or
Yes.
Scottish. Wow, I did not mean that. I'm a dumb American.
What? It is
It's
Scotland.
yeah, but they don't want to be, so
No, but they still are
I
for
stand
now.
I
So
stand with them. I stand
I
with
do
them. They're
too.
not.
They ought not be them if they don't
They
want to be
aren't.
them. But if you
No, they
look up the
aren't.
population, it includes the Scottish.
Well, then it's lower because they're not. They don't want to be. I'm on their fucking side. Those are my boys.
Okay.
That's where my people are from. It is how they want it to be. My opinion. Fuck them. So to me, it's just England. Definitely not Ireland, right? They actually did
Well,
get
dude, if you're
independence.
going by that rationale, it's literally just England.
Yeah.
I
Well, there
don't
you
think
go.
Wales even really wants to be there. I know Northern Ireland don't, and we in Scotland, everywhere we went in Scotland, they're like, yeah, we want out. So it's
But
like
Scotland's about to pass
England.
it, though, right? They're like
Well, they're
on the
going to
cusp.
try. They're
Yeah,
going to try.
but
Yeah.
they're closer than ever. Like they've
Yes.
actually got
Correct.
they've actually right now, from what I hear, they've like got the majority going. Like, yes, we will vote
It
for this shit.
it is. It's funny that like at one point England had like almost the whole world.
Yeah.
And the whole world for the past 100 years has been like, we don't want to be y'all, right? And now, and it's whittled down to
To just
just these. They've got
their
these
neighbors.
3 left. Their neighbors was like, no, we're keeping y'all us, and they're like, we don't want to be y'all either.
Eh,
And then it's ironic that England was like, we don't want to be y'all to the European Union,
Yeah, right.
as Brexit, and it's like,
That's
well,
all
who wants
life
to be
is.
who?
That's all
Yeah,
life is just everybody being like, we want to be us and we don't want to be y'all. Like it's like with children, you know what I mean? Like when
right.
kids get 13, like all these countries just got 13, and we're just like, fuck this, I'm my own person. But it's like it makes total
Yeah, but
sense.
it's more like if those children had been stolen,
Stolen,
by
yeah, and whipped a lot. But it does make
yeah,
sense. The only one that pretty much the only ones they have left are the ones in an arm's reach distance. You know what I mean?
yes,
Like the ones that just like every now and then they can just hit with a whip, like, no, you're still us. Like everybody
hmm
further away, they're like, do we really want to go over there and keep them us? Because we could just let them be them. You know what I mean? So
I think that like largely how it really sort of broke down was, but after Germany tried to fight the whole world,
yeah,
and Germany went around to other places in Europe and was like, "You us
you us
now,"
now,
right? Uh,
and everybody was like, "We've been through this."
Everybody agreed, like, well, they can't do that because they did it in a way less cool fashion.
Of
Let's be honest,
course,
not that England did it in a cool way, but I
it was
think we'd
way
all agree
better.
Germany was like still worse
Well,
the way they
dude,
went about it. So
yeah, because
then
Germany.
they lose, and the world is like, you can't be doing that shit. And then England is part of the winning side, and they're like, but we can still do it, right?
It
And everybody's
right,
like, no, that
not
wouldn't look
good.
good. You got to
Yeah.
you got to stop it too. And they're like, oh, all right, I
Well, it's all about
suppose
the
we'll do that.
approach. It's all about the approach, isn't it? Like, it, not saying that colonization is good in any way. It's not, but like, at least England came to it and had the decency to make it look like, hey, we just no, we want to help you. You're going to be us.
Yeah,
We're going to civilize. The Germans were just like, fuck you. I can't do a German for
yeah,
some
right.
reason right now. Crikey, shlikey, shlikey.
Yeah, right.
They did it like very like, you're going to be us, and y'all don't give a fuck what you say, and like. And they had Hitler, like, it was different.
It was very different. I agree. So anyway, what's your next fun fact there?
Well, I want to reverse a couple of them because now we were just talking about. By the way, can I say this? With all that in knowledge, like of how England was able to conquer the whole fucking world, like it really is insane that we're a country. Like it's fucking crazy. Like that's like us winning the Revolutionary War is like
Yeah, dude,
miracle on ice. It's like the
bro.
fucking. It's like. And I know that.
Chaminade. It's
Yeah,
like all the
dude.
great upsets of
All
all
of
time. It's but
Yeah,
no,
dude.
yeah,
Like it's a
absolutely it is.
16-1 seed, dude. It really
That
is. Like,
yes,
cause like,
absolutely it
cause like
is.
if you think about us now, it's like now we could fucking of course take on anybody. We're fucking huge. But back then, like we weren't even states yet. Like I mean, there were some of them, but like we weren't who we was. That's what made us who we was. Like it's
Yes.
fucking like we were like Tom Brady getting drafted and was just like, oh, seventh round. All right. All
We'll
right.
see about
We'll see
that.
about that. So, anyways, I'm going to switch these facts because of the population of the United Kingdom. There are more chickens in England than there are people. Did you know that? Do you think that's true in America? Probably is.
Probably. I mean, think
Yeah.
about how many chickens each
You
of our
just say
fat
on a
asses
truck.
eats.
Yeah,
You
it
know what
has
I
to
mean?
be. How
Yeah.
many?
I
How
bet
many?
there's more. I bet any country that eats chickens, I
There's
bet
more
they got more
chickens.
chickens than people.
Yeah.
Because again, there'd have to
Yeah, it
be.
has to be.
Otherwise,
Yeah. Why
there's
did
a
they even
massive
think this is
chicken
good?
shortage.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
don't hit. I don't like that. Well, hey, okay. So that was how much tea was drank. How many sausages do you think are eaten every day in the UK?
Okay, they got 70 million people. If and they do it. They do it on a full English. They do it with bangers and man. They love their
Yeah, I
sausages. They
actually
love
think
their
this is low.
sausages. So, if they got 70 million people, probably at least some of them's vegetarians or whatever per day. Not everybody's eating a sausage every single day. So per day, I'll say 70 million.
No, it's 5 million. It's insanely
What?
lower. I know, dude. Like that goes the opposite way to the tea. Like I saw that and I was like, but like that's their number one breakfast thing. Like
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought.
yeah.
I mean, I love sausages, and I don't eat nearly a sausage a day. So I guess it was kind of outrageous that I thought that they were
No,
all
it
on
wasn't
average eating a
outrageous.
sausage a day. But I still think 5 is real low.
I think 5 is
They love
insanely low.
sausages,
They
dude.
they that's like their whole fucking thing. That's like one of the things that we have in common is that like they have a fucking insane breakfast that nobody should have. Like them and
I
us,
know, I'm saying it's not just it's not just their breakfast. They
yeah,
got bangers
bangers
and
and
mash. They
mash.
got
Yeah,
that. I don't think
it's
it's
a
toad in the
pudding,
hole. Is it toad in the hole?
toe in
They've
the
got
hole,
plenty of. Is toad in the hole got sausage? They've got plenty of dishes that feature sausage heavily.
sausage.
They got
Yeah,
sausage rolls. Like they
they
love
actually do
sausages, and
sausage really well over there.
yes, sausage hits.
Here's one that I can totally buy. I didn't know. I knew that like we're the only country. We have the oldest. You can't drink until this date. But how legally, when over there can kids drink alcohol in private areas and at home? What age?
In So not in public? You mean like
No,
it's like at home? So
at home, it's completely legal. Like if the cops were to come over and you're a child
12?
of the five, 5
What?
years old, completely legal. Because like over here, there's no like it's still 21. Like if
Did
like the cops were to come to your house and your 13-year-old was drinking, that's still illegal.
Did you know in some states, and I don't know which ones, but in some states in this country, it's actually illegal for, I think they still maybe have to be 18, maybe it's 16, 18. It's under 21, but like
Rural
at least a
areas.
teenager. Not no, like some whole states, if they're with their parents, like at a restaurant or something, and the parent says the parent gives their blessing, they can have a glass of wine or whatever, then
That's
it's
how it
legal
ought to
in
be.
some states. I mean, yeah, I agree. It's
That's
like,
how it.
hey,
I mean,
the goddamn big government ain't gonna tell me my kid can't get drunk. God damn it.
I'll say, I would like to say maybe not five, because now we're
Right.
talking about that's a hell, like a 5-year-old is still growing and like a little bit of alcohol can really fuck them up. But like, I do say that when they're fucking teenagers, like, especially 18-year-olds, like, I don't want to get into the whole, like, if you can bleed for the country, you should be able to drink for it too. But like, if you're with your parents and you're in your teens and like, I just think, yeah, the parent should decide if he, yeah, and then the parent is responsible. If this kid starts acting fucking crazy in public, the parent should get disorderly conduct just as well. But like, that's how it ought to be. I think we may have discussed this one, but if not, I want to bring it up again. When a whale or sturgeon becomes beached over in England, do you know what happens next?
It explodes.
No, before it explodes.
What happens next?
By law,
It stank.
it do stink. By
It
law,
do explode.
by law, it must be offered up to the reigning monarch. So if a whale is beached, they have to call Charles and be like, "Hey, before we
Do they
let this
got a
explode and stink,
do they got a whale hotline for that? Like
yeah,
if you're just some
red
average
phone."
chap and yeah, that's the whale phone. That means he's got a whale guy who has to say, "No, it's all right.
Yeah,
Explode it,"
yeah,
But like if you're just some average chap walking down the street or the beach, you see a whale and you want to keep it, you got to call the
you
king
can't.
first.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even know how to go about calling the king.
well,
That's why I wondered if they had a hotline or something.
I think probably like the little boy in the Peaky Blinders newsboy hat isn't the one that's going to be calling. I think it's like if you see a beached whale, you're probably going to need some help getting that beached whale. So you'd have to call like the life aquatic people, and then they will be like, "Fuck, we got to call Charles first to see if he wants this whale." And then I'm sure
Yeah,
Charles will be like, "Has it exploded yet?" And they're
right,
like, "No, sir." And he's like, "Oh, we'll take that one."
right.
So do it stink. Uh,
And he sends out his whale retrieval unit,
yeah, and
the
they just
WRU.
and
Yeah,
I guess but I don't know what they're then doing with it because they don't have like,
making oil to put on his head.
oh right, that's where that shit comes from. Or like, do they
Probably
have?
not. They were
Do you?
probably torturing whales to get that specific oil. That
Yeah. That's the only way that you can get that
yeah,
oil secreted is if they're tortured.
yeah.
By the
Go ahead.
way,
Otherwise,
I thought about you and this show today. My wife is rewatch, or she's not rewatching. She's trying to catch up on Succession, and I'm like screaming at her to get it done because I want to be watching the new season. But of course,
it's great.
I know as soon as the new season came out, I was like, oh fuck yeah! And she goes, I really want to watch that with you. And I was like, well, watch it with me. And she's like, I just started Succession though, and I was like, okay, cool. Here's the deal. I'm giving you a week. All right. And I will give you the week. But if you're not caught up in a week, I'm fucking starting season 4, episode 1. And so I'm rewatching it with her. And Tom and them went to that Japanese restaurant thing where they ate the bird, where they had to put their towel over their head in shame. And I had
Yeah,
totally forgotten about that. And Amber goes, what the fuck are they doing? And I was able to stand up and go, well, here's what they're doing from
yeah.
something I learned on POA.
That was the first time I heard about that bird. Actually, was in the show Hannibal that they put
Mm-hmm.
on NBC, which that actually was a pretty solid show and wild as hell for a
That's what's his
network.
face, right? From
Matt Mickelson plays
yeah, I
Hannibal
love
in it.
that
Yeah,
motherfucker.
dude, you will be stunned at how gnarly that show is, considering it aired on NBC. But anyway, that was my introduction to the shame god bird.
Yeah. Why was I talking about that? Oh, just because of whales and stuff. Here's one. For some reason, it's illegal in Scotland for a boy under the age of 10 to see a naked mannequin.
What's that about?
I don't know. I don't know. I kind of
They
know.
don't even have the twig and the berries on the mannequin, do they?
No, hey, it's like a Barbie doll. That was
Aye.
Irish, not Scottish. But
So
yeah,
what's the
they
problem with little lads seeing a mannequin in the
well, with these, you always have to go. There was precedent for this. It's not like they were making laws and someone goes, "Hey, by the way, I think I know what a law should be." Like, obviously, something had to happen in order for them to say.
bro?
So I don't know. I guess it was just like
That
their.
that sounds like something that these people worrying about the kids in this
That's what
country
I was gonna say.
will be on to next. That'll be
Yeah,
their next thing. It's like we can't have our kids' minds poisoned by these, you know, nutless, half naked mannequins. Like,
that's what I was
yeah,
thinking. Is like there was like an IRA bombing or something over there, and everybody was talking about it, and someone stood up and was just like, "Okay, but the real issue of the day is my boy was walking
right,
down the street and saw a
right,
mannequin with no clothes on.
yeah.
So when are we going to fucking do something about that?" That's what
I
it said. That's what it seemed like to me. Here's one that don't hit. Um, it is throughout the day on Christmas, it is illegal to eat mince pies. Obviously, this is something that's not enforced, but it is a law. And again, what do you think was the reason for that? The peasants
my,
were happy and they had to take it away from
yeah,
them.
right. Hey, yeah, couldn't have that. That would hit. Can't have that. I don't know. They took the traditional meals very seriously or something, or like the monarch at the time like decreed this is what you eat on Christmas, and then people were like, "But we like mince
Mince
pies,"
pies,
and they were like, "Well, too bad then. You
you'll
can't
have the
have
mud
them."
ones and you'll like it.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah, but it's
mince
funny.
pie. You know, the mince pie. That's ground beef, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's it.
But like, if one of my favorite movies, The Man Who Invented Christmas, is to be believed, they didn't even really give that much of a fuck about Christmas until Charles Dickinson wrote the fucking Christmas Carol. So like, it's weird to me that they would have some arbitrary rule about it. But a way funnier rule is that it is technically illegal to die in the Houses of Parliament. So
Yeah, I think I've heard that one before.
what could that
Uh,
reasoning be? And how does someone get in trouble for this? Does their next of kin have to pay a fine?
yeah, probably. I don't know. Well, shit. Depending on how old this thing is, they might have like tarred and feathered their corpse.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
put them on
Invited the
trial.
whole town to come down.
It was a
Make a
god to
day of it.
fucking
Yeah.
synod. Oh
I
my,
don't. It's probably just like that's not befitting the decorum of the institution or
yeah,
something ridiculous like that. It's like, no, this is an upstanding, high class institution. You can't just be falling over dead when you die. You fart and
yeah.
stuff. Like
I,
can't be farting in here.
that sounds so much like something the Queen would have done. Like they, which by the way, the Queen could never be in Parliament. We all know that. But like some. What are they called? What's their congressman called?
MPs.
MP.
MPs. It
Some
stands for member of
member of
parliament.
parliament. So
That's called
some MP
MPs.
is
Yeah.
over there and he's giving a speech. He's filibustering some bullshit, reading Winnie the Pooh backwards or something, and he just has a stroke and dies. And the Queen's
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
reaction was, "Oh, that was without
I, d-
tact." You know, like
I don't care for
I don't
that.
care for that. I mean, rest in peace, but
We should banish that.
yeah. His children should be held
It
accountable.
probably was just something like
Like
that, I
that,
bet.
yeah.
The
That was
monarch was
tacky.
like, "I find that distasteful.
Yeah.
We'll
Oh,
have no more of that, thank you."
couple more. This one here is ridiculous, and then the last one I found just interesting and to be quite the opposite of what it is here in America. This one right here is ridiculous. It is technically illegal to walk cows down the street in the daylight. Nighttime, you walk a cow however the fuck you want, but during the daytime, no cows.
I The opposite would make more sense to me. So it's like,
Agreed.
oh, it's a hazard at nighttime, but in the daytime you can see the cows, so it's no big deal. But I say, you don't want cows clogging up the streets and stuff, whatever time of day it is. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I sort of get that. I just don't get why you delineate between
Night
nighttime
and
and
day.
daytime in that scenario.
I'd be more scared of a night cow than I would be a day cow.
Me
Is
too.
yeah.
But if you live in like a cow heavy part of England, like I would imagine the people that aren't cow people probably would be like, we'd rather you not have those bovines in the streets,
Yeah, but you would think it would be
trying to,
for both.
for sure. Yes,
But I guess
that's really the only weird part of that one
I
to me
guess
is
what it is, I
the
guess
daytime part.
yeah,
That's
I guess
higher traffic. That's when people are
yeah,
on the road
yes.
more.
They
At
don't want to see
nighttime,
it.
people are at home asleep by their
Yeah.
fireplace or
They
whatever.
were all like, listen, guys, I don't know if you know how the transportation of bovine is and its importance to us in the bovine world, but we are going to have to eventually walk these cows down the street. And they were like, okay, 9 p.m. That's when you can do it. That's totally fine, but not during the day. Here's the thing that this is the last one, and this is the one that I found to be the opposite of what it's like in America. According to a poll, 64% of women in the UK find clothes shopping to be depressing, and 10% of women have cried in changing rooms. Both of those numbers are flipped, in my opinion, in America.
Yeah.
Like, only 10% of women find it depressing, and 64% of them have cried in a changing room.
Yeah, I would think 10% seems low to me.
Yeah,
I feel, lady
agree.
having a rough day, just got left. It's raining. Of course, it's always raining over there. And then she's a little too big to fit into what used to be her size.
Yeah.
Waterworks, like
Yeah.
dude, no, that's got to be self-reported. And there's a lot of women ain't coming clean about how often they've cried in the dress changing room.
Yeah,
That's what I
or
think.
like it's, like any straw poll or whatever, it's like completely contingent on what area you took this fucking test in. Like, that wasn't 100 women spread out over all of the UK. That was like 100 super poor women coming out of a Birmingham dope or fucking methadone clinic or something. Like, I don't know. Like, there's just no goddamn way that that's true. But if it is, then like that's the complete opposite of America. Because, dude, like even me, I'm not a woman. And as you know,
Mhm.
Trae, I think we all know, women be shopping,
They
right?
do be. They classically, famously do be
They
shopping.
classically, famously do be shopping. And of course, we all hear the term retail therapy. And that is where, like, to make yourself, if you're having a bad day, you go buy something and that will temporarily send a shot of dopamine to you, make you feel better. I do that as a man. I do that shit. Like when I'm feeling sad, I'll buy a new t-shirt or I'll like go get my clubs regripped. So like I just don't
I
believe this.
what I assume it's related to, because I've heard Katie complain about, like, apparently women's sizes are a minefield and a nightmare, and they're
Yeah.
inconsistent and don't make any goddamn sense, even to them, from the
Yeah.
way Katie talks about it
Oh, Amber
anyway.
too. Amber too. It
So
makes
I
no sense.
assume that, like, it's related to that, like it makes them feel fatter than they are or something
Yeah.
like that, because they think they should be able to fit into this size, but this brand is sized down and they didn't know it or whatever. And it's just it's frustrating because you're like, you feel fat. Feeling fat don't hit. Feeling
No,
fat
feeling
makes you
fat
cry.
don't hit, but they don't have as many. We got the fats,
We got the fats, baby.
and they love to shop.
We got the fats. We got
Got
the
the
fats. We
fats. We
got
got
the
the
fats.
fats. We got
Hey,
the fat.
we got the
Yeah,
fats. Ain't no doubt about that.
we do have
Uh,
the fats.
all right. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and get into it. No wasting no time here, because just so everybody knows, I've got a deadline today for when I got to go back in the house. So going right into it, needing a lawyer. Poor people and rich people need lawyers for pretty different reasons. I would say. Why do you think rich people need lawyers, Joe? General, like, of course, this
Well,
is generally
of
speaking.
course, you've got big divorce settlements. That's one of them. There's also the with the transfer of power in companies.
Yep.
There's constant lawsuit,
Corporate law.
corporate
Corporate law is one of
law.
them.
There's that, and there's like uh, real estate law. There's like, hey,
Yes.
this is
Yes.
this part is my property. The blueprints were drawn worse. That's actually my land right here. There's that, and also a lot of rich people law is because someone went against an NDA and talked some shit that they weren't supposed to be saying.
I think that probably falls under corporate law.
Yeah.
So there's 5 listed primary reasons. You've got 2 of them so far: corporate law and real estate. Divorce, I would say, goes under a third one, which includes some other things. But if you got some more guesses there, go ahead.
So I said, what were the ones I've
What do
said
they
so
always
far?
try to avoid doing at all cost?
They Anything?
Paying
Tax law,
taxes.
paying taxes. Yes, yes. I
That's
had all
3.
that together in my head.
Yeah.
And corporate litigation, oh my God,
Well, you just said
litigation,
litigation. Litigation is the 4th, so that would be like getting sued and
getting
shit,
sued. Yeah,
which
yeah,
they
yeah. A lot,
often get
right?
sued.
A lot of rich people
Um,
are in court not because they went on their own. It was because someone sued them
Made them go.
for not, for not paying for services. A lot of rich people hire people and then they don't pay them, and then the only way they're going to get paid is to go to court. And oftentimes the rich person has a better lawyer, so they end up not having to pay them.
Correct. There's only one left, and we've kind of talked about it on the show before. It involves your children and your stuff.
Oh, alimony and inheritance.
Inheritance in estate planning.
Yeah.
So yes, so estate planning, corporate law, litigation, taxes, real estate. The 5 primary reasons that rich people need lawyers. Whereas, like, I feel like with poor people, and I couldn't find a specific list because it's like, dude, the internet's real. The internet kind of pisses me off about
Me too.
looking up poor people stuff.
Yep.
Because it's like, I don't know. It's either very like scientific and depressing, or it's like they don't want to. Like, if I try to look up like why do trashy people need lawyers, the internet's like, well, hold on, whoa, now,
Why
whoa,
did
like we don't,
you? Yeah.
yeah,
Define
some low income
trash.
individuals may, but by no means all might need whatever,
Yeah.
that
Right.
type of bullshit. And I'm like, just tell me. But I feel like it's you know, because you got busted with some shit you ought not have.
Yeah.
Gun,
Right.
drug, otherwise you whoop somebody's ass at a T-ball game. That's a
Child
reason you might
support.
need a lawyer. And then, yeah, obviously, where the 2 areas where the Venn diagram overlaps between the two, I feel like one of which I did a whole episode on, so I'm not going to belabor the point, but is, of course, divorce and child support stuff. Again, if you guys are newer listeners, we have a divorce episode, which is pretty good, as I recall. And then also DUIs, I feel
Yeah.
like. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yep.
other Venn diagram area, because it's either like Nancy Pelosi's husband or your Uncle Randy who's
Yeah.
getting a DUI in your life generally. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
rich people, because I feel like people talk about it all the time. Rich people get caught. It's like, just have a driver. You're
Dude,
fucking loaded. But
we've
it's
talked.
that sense of like
It's power.
entitlement
It's
they have where
power.
they're
I'm
like,
not. They're invincible.
right. And then they get deweyed up.
Because, like, dude, these days you don't have to be a super loaded person to get a driver. Like, Uber exists now. Like, don't get me wrong, if you are super poor, like, you can't afford the Uber, but like that no longer is there an excuse for anyone who but I will also say this: if you can afford to go out on the town drinking, then you can afford whatever the fucking Uber is, in my opinion. Like, you just,
you better be able to, because like if you do get caught, you're gonna need a whole lot more money.
Yeah, it's
We've
this.
both known people that had friends that had DUIs and shit. That shit's expensive,
dude.
and a huge pain in the ass. And also, like, of course, you just all really ought
you
not
should
do that,
it because of the health of society. But like,
yeah,
dude,
right.
I can't
Exactly.
tell you
but
how many
it
times.
also don't hit.
No, dude, I can't tell you how many times I've said these words to someone, one of my buddies, when they like looked up an Uber and they were like, "God damn, it's $40 just to get me back home," and I go, "Yeah." Or it's 10,000 for you to get you back home, and you might kill, or more, because you might kill somebody. So like, what are we doing here? Because we just took silver coin shots and they were $30 a piece, and you didn't have no fucking problem with that, and that's already gone. So get the fucking Uber, you dumbass. But yes, because of that, most of the time, if it's a rich person, they're like, nobody can touch me. And if it's a poor person, oftentimes it's like, shit, I'm better driving truck. I know what the fuck I'm doing.
Everybody knows I'm better. I drive better. And I know you have too. I've literally known and heard people personally who said like honestly, I drive better drunk.
I'm more focused.
And like at the stage of my life I was in at the time, I was like, right on, let's go.
I will tell you this.
20s or whatever. I would never do that now. But
there is a level, like, when I don't drive. Listen to me. Hear me out.
You're literally about to do the thing where just making fun of people doing. Well, good, go for it.
Listen,
go hit for me.
I don't do it at all now because it's absolutely stupid. And A, I'm a father, and B, like, it was never. You look at it, it's like it's not worth it to get caught, whatever. But back in the day, if I had only had 2 to 3 beers, which 2 to 3 beers, not really impairing a person of my drinking stature at all, I would argue that I did drive better because I was worried about getting pulled over by a police officer. So I was driving completely 10 and 2, making all the moves on 2 to 3 beers. Now you have 5 or 6. No, I'm not. But 2 to 3 beers, I will argue that a lot of people do drive better.
Okay. All right. Well, let's see.
Shut the fuck up. You know I'm right.
So rich people, they need lawyers because like they got a lot of money and it's trying to keep as much of it as possible, protect it from other people, but also protect them in all the shifty goings on that they undertake in order to keep to have more money. Like
Right.
like you said earlier, screwing people over and then getting away with it because they got a real hitting lawyer and the person they screwed over can't afford none of that shit. So that's essentially what it comes down to. Having said, so I want everybody to know that that's where I stand on that whole thing. But then I thought we'd talk briefly about some like famous lawsuits that have been filed against like big business or rich people. Obviously,
Paltrow just won.
Yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow. Yes, that was the whitest shit I've ever seen, dude.
It wasn't even entertaining.
The only entertaining part was the way her lawyer seemed like a Kristen Wiig character interacting with like actual Gwyneth Paltrow. Do you know what I mean? Like she's like, you're so cool and pretty. I wish I was pretty like you. But anyway, would you say that you were out of line that day? Of course you're not. So you're a good skier, right? You're such a good skier. I wish I was a good skier.
That's so
she's literally saying all this like on the record. It's so ridiculous. But anyway, so I think the most famous one of all time in my mind is probably the McDonald's hot coffee. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. I remembered it being the first time I even heard about it was when it was lampooned in Seinfeld, but yes.
Okay. So how do you remember that being presented? And also like, how do you remember that case in general? How it was treated, how it was talked about.
Here's what I remember. Consensus. Here's what I remember. Broad strokes. All right. Someone goes to get a coffee. They hand it to her. The lid was kind of off, spills it on her, and it burnt her, right? And she sues McDonald's. And every fucking person was making the joke of like, is she suing McDonald's because the coffee was Chex Notes hot? What the fuck is this shit? Everyone's just out for a goddamn paycheck, right?
Mm-hmm,
and she was very, very made fun of. But then later, and you're about to tell this part, so I'll let you.
No, no, you know it already.
That was the narrative for like a very, very long time, because this is before the internet, when you could just like people could have backstories and give more information. You learned everything from ET or whatever. And so that was it for years. But then come to find out, the McDonald's actually did have their coffee set way hotter than it should be.
Yeah.
And she got like third-degree burns.
She was in the hospital for like over
a week because it was a
79-year-old woman. Everybody knew that.
Right.
But it like, dude, this is so I'm gross. I'm sorry, but just to make it the point further, it like fused her labia together. Like,
that don't hit.
Like it wasn't really frivolous, and it's like this old mamaw dude.
Yeah, right.
Got
like she deserved
roasted like coffee, baby, by the whole American media landscape.
And I don't think if that happened today, it would have been the same, because we would have had all that additional information that we didn't have back then. But yeah, dude, I mean, it wasn't until recently that I was like, oh my God, that bitch was right.
I mean, I'm glad that, I'm glad that you already knew all that. Like, cause I don't know how, I don't have a good sense of how many people know the second part. Cause I just know if you were around at the time,
I don't think a lot of people do.
And but it wasn't bullshit at all. Here's a fun one though. A guy named Richard Overton once sued Anheuser-Busch,
the comedian,
because he claimed that getting drunk off Budweiser was not scoring him any hot ass the way their commercials had led him to believe. So it was false advertising. He'd been misled, and he had suffered emotional distress and financial loss as a result of it, because he's throwing all his money away on ass that ain't coming. And he sued for $10,000. That one did not go through, believe it or not. Yes, Corey.
Did the opposing lawyer mention to him, well, that's because you don't look a goddamn thing like the guys in the Budweiser commercials?
I mean, I assume they made all those, like it's just,
sir, you don't hit.
Or the judge was just like, well, this is R-worded. Get out of here. So Another guy named John Leonard sued Pepsi because they wouldn't let him buy a fighter jet using Pepsi points.
Yes,
So,
that was bullshit. They made a whole fucking documentary about that. Like,
oh
technically,
damn,
dude, you
you're
didn't
on
know this?
top of these, buddy.
Oh fuck yeah, dude! I go down the rabbit holes on these because like I like to see people get what's theirs. Well, apparently, like Pepsi put out a commercial that was talking about their Pepsi points and what all you could get with their Pepsi points. Now, I definitely agree that in their brain they meant this as a joke. Like as a joke, they go, and for this many Pepsi points, you can get a fighter pilot. But it was in their mind, it was the amount of Pepsi points that no human being could ever get. But this motherfucker did get that amount of Pepsi points. He goes to him and is like, yo, where's my fighter jet? And they're like, well, sir, that wasn't real. And he's like, you fucking said it. And they're like, we
He
didn't think anybody would do this.
So he didn't actually get that many points, but what he did was he still like played it by the book according
Yeah.
to their rules and everything. They in the contest rules you could purchase Pepsi points. Like you
Yes.
could just buy Pepsi points for 10
Yes.
cents a piece.
Yes.
So he sent them a check for $700,000, right, including $10 shipping and handling for the fighter jet, which is funny.
Hilarious.
And said, "Okay, I want to buy 7 million Pepsi points and then give me that fighter." Because, dude, 700 grand for a fighter jet, that's a deal. Those things are
great
fucking
deal.
$50 million or whatever they
Right.
are. And they were like, no. And the judge said, no reasonable person could have assumed that was actually the way it worked.
Okay, and I say that's fucking bullshit because
because
the ad,
they ought not say whether it's a reasonable person thinks that or not.
Who
It's
gives
like,
a shit?
it's
said
still
it.
what they said. You said it. You've got the money for it. Like,
dude,
fucking come correct.
If me and you were doing a bet or whatever, and the result of the bet is I win, or you win, fucking Rochambeau kicking the balls, and then I lose the bet, I can't go, well, no reasonable person would think that I would agree to being kicked in the balls. It's like, well, motherfucker, you said if I won, I kick you in the balls. Like, so, dude, fuck Pepsi. I mean, I get that. I understand them trying to backtrack that because they would literally lose so much money. But that judge is a fucking bought and paid for piece of shit. You know that Pepsi slipped him something because if he's going by the fucking letter of the law, in no way was there fine print that said, by the way, you ain't getting a jet. So that guy got fucking fucked.
Yes, he did. All right. Another guy sued Michael Jordan and Nike because he looked just like Michael Jordan, and that didn't hit for him because people always thought he was Michael Jordan, and then they were like, "Oh no, you don't hit. You're just somebody that don't hit." So it was a constant reminder of how he didn't hit, and it interrupted his life all the time. And so he sued him for $400 million a piece. Nike and Michael Jordan just sued him for hitting too hard, I guess.
And he could easily just use that to his advantage. Just be like, yeah, I am. Want to buy me a drink, and then leave. But like, that's the most ridiculous one I've ever heard.
I want to do just two more. This family, and these involve people dying, don't hit, whatever. But this family of a guy who died while trying to achieve his lifelong dream of swimming with a whale. Okay, here's what he did. Yeah, it's a lifelong dream, bucket list, want to swim with a whale. So he went to SeaWorld and hid until after hours and then dove into the killer whale tank. And you'll never believe what happened next. They killered him. They killered the shit out of him. And his family sued SeaWorld because they said that they did not have signs or otherwise make it clear that the killer whales were dangerous. It's like, well, they're not teddy whales, or huggy whales. Like, also, that could have been a clue.
I know for a fact they have no trespassing signs. So, like, you're fucked on that.
Okay, and then the last one, this lady was once waiting on a train in Illinois.
That's a Tom Waits song.
Another dude tragically, it's unclear to me whether he did it on purpose or whether he just fucked up, but another dude got exploded by the train. He fell in front of it, right? And when that happened, his leg and stuff hit this lady in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she was standing nearby, he exploded, and she gets hit with pieces of him.
Yep.
So she sued that guy's family for damages.
You got to.
Which is that's a tough beat right there as a family member.
Though, because like she does deserve something. Like, and it can't be the train because it's his fault that he got exploded by the train. I think that's just an unfortunate thing that had to happen.
Well, the appeals court agreed with you. The first court said that the young man could not have predicted where his leg would fly in what direction, but an appeals court said that it was reasonably foreseeable that a high speed could kill the man and send his flying body parts into crowds of waiting passengers, which I guess is kind of hard to argue with.
Will
So,
you sue his insurance company, right? Not like she
I
wouldn't
mean, it
sue.
says they sued his family,
Well,
but
I mean, that's fucked up. But again, like, it ain't that woman's fault, and she has pain
mm-mm.
and suffering. So, like, I'd say sue the insurance company, but maybe a guy like that didn't have the slickest of insurance.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for lawyers. Maybe revisit it in the future with some other fun stories. I don't know. We'll see. But
Yeah,
we
please,
need to
let's do
move
that again.
on. Need to move on to History Professor Cho on the subject of Vlad the Impaler right after this. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/POA and get on your way to being your best self. Guys, being your best self, that's a lifelong process. I think we all know it. We should know it, especially because we're human beings. We're always growing and changing. I'm in my mid to late 30s now, and I'm a very, very different person than I was in my mid to late 20s, let alone my early 20s. We're always growing, always changing, and it takes time to learn that about yourself. You should change. You should try to get better. It's part of being a person, a good person. But it's not easy to do, life comes at you fast, as people often say, and we all find that to be true. I certainly have found that to be true, and that's where therapy comes in. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't even know what we want or why we react the way we do until we talk through things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you happen to be right now. Corey, you've got some
Yeah, I'm real
experience with it.
successful with BetterHelp. And I can tell you right off the top, if there's people out there that are like, well, I don't really want to take medication, I'm telling you that the talking it out and the life tips that I got from my therapist are just as valuable as any brain resetting medication that I've taken and love. So just keep that in mind. Like, there's just so many things that you think would be common knowledge that you just need reiterated to you. You need to understand, when to take a deep breath. You need to understand that you can't do everything on your own. Like, we all want to be tough, and we all want to think we can figure this out. But, like, we can't do this podcast alone. We got to have a producer to help us, and there's nothing wrong with that. So with BetterHelp, you can get like a producer for your brain. You know what I mean? It's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to need a little help in that because I'm telling you, the brain is more complex than a podcast. I'll tell you that much. But my life has been absolutely day and night since before starting therapy. I could not recommend it enough. And I think more people, especially with my accent, needs to hear that because it's changed me. I don't know where I'd be without it. So I could not recommend it more.
If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you do, fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So it's time, y'all. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/POA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/POA. And we thank them for sponsoring the podcast.
Q.
All right, we're back. History of Professor Cho, Vlad the Impaler. I say he's shrouded in lore and stuff like that. Like, he was somewhere over in Eastern Europe, right? Romania, Transylvania, somewhere over there.
Not Transylvania, even though that's where Dracula is. So a lot of people think, but he was actually in it's in my notes further down.
So he he was like a noble over there who was
Yep.
wild as hell, killed a bunch of people. He loved it. He loved to shove sticks up their butt and let them slide down the sticks till they died and then
Yep.
leave them on the sticks and stuff as warnings. He did a bunch of crazy, bloodthirsty shit like that. Inspiration for Dracula. But I've heard that some people in the region claim that that's sort of bullshit and
Right.
that he's misrepresented and he's kind of revered by some folks as like a folk hero type of guy is what I've heard. I don't know the truth of any of it. And I just know
Well,
he was wild.
I'll go ahead and get to that point in case I miss it because we're going to have to do a speed run. Two things can be true there. He is revered as a folk hero by people over there because he saved his place from rule of the Ottoman Empire, but I don't think that they say that he didn't do any of the impaling stuff. Basically, what they're saying is like, no, he did all that, but he saved us from rule of the Ottoman Empire, right? So,
Right. Well,
so it's
that
like,
would be a
fine.
wild name to have if he didn't actually do all that, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. So, like, no, they agree that he did. It's kind of like us with like some people with like George Bush. They're like, yeah, I mean, war crimes, but like he took down the terrorists. You know what I mean? Like we forgive a lot
Yeah.
of
I
things
mean,
when it's
he very did
did
not,
not
but
do. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? I'm saying you
Yes,
know
I
what
do.
you know
Yes,
what
I
I'm
do.
saying.
Yeah, I do.
Dude, like you led a
So they're just
lot
saying
of
it was justified.
yeah.
They don't dispute that he did all that
The
shit. They're
ends
just saying like the ends
The
justified the
ends
means.
justify the
Okay.
means. Yeah. So Vlad the
All right.
Impaler was known for his cruel use of impalement as a form of punishment. And what it is, I mean, it's, you said it pretty good, but it was a strategic thing. So they would take this big old, a dull stake, and they did
Yeah.
that so it take a little bit longer going up there.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they fucked it up and it killed them instantly. But the goal was to shove it, starting up their butthole, right? And you wanted to shimmy around the vital organs so that it didn't kill them instantly, and then it would come up like through the shoulder and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so this is what he did, and sometimes,
Was the best was the top score, like if it comes straight out their mouth at the top, you know
well,
what I mean? If it comes out
not
like that, they're like, oh, that's 10 points.
yes, but then that would probably kill them instantly because you're
They
talking about
wanted to get all the way through their body and out their shoulder without killing
the
them.
goal was to not kill them. The goal
I knew that they were supposed to sit there and suffer for a while, but I thought it was just the process of slowly sliding down the stick. I didn't know it got. I just always assumed once the stick got all the way through them,
no
that they was dead.
no
Damn,
No,
bro.
no, no. And now
Damn.
again, a lot of them did because like sometimes that's hard to get right, but like the goal was, and it happened, sometimes they would live for days. Like just like
Wait.
and by the way, just
Pass does not hit.
to all the people, no, the past does not hit. To all the people thinking like, yes, but he was a benevolent impaler, that Vlad. He
All the people out there definitely thinking that right now.
Well, no, but
Like,
some people again say they're like, "Oh, he saved
Yeah.
us from the Ottoman Empire." Because you're like, "Well, those were his enemies. What are you going to do?" Now, he often also impaled mothers and their babies on the same barbecue
Skewer, shish
skewer.
kebab.
Yeah, exactly.
Lord God.
And impaling sucks,
Yeah, see, that ain't it.
and that brings us to a new segment here. Top 5 worst ways to die. I have compiled a list. All right. Impaling, of course, we've already talked about that. I'm going to go with number 5, the rack. Do you know what the rack is, Trae?
The torture rack?
The torture
is that
rack.
the one where they put them on there and it like stretches them out?
Yeah.
Gradually.
Little by
Yeah,
little.
little by little. Yeah.
Yeah. Stretches the arms until you were ripped in half. I think that would not hit. So I put that at
I
number
agree.
5.
I agree that would not hit.
Number 4 is one that I've just learned about called the blood eagle, aka giving the victim wings. Do you want to even venture a guess on what this one is, Trae?
They peel their back skin off and hang them by it, so they got like skin flaps. It looks like wings, and then they just die.
Yes, the victim would lie in a
Lord.
prone position and be kept alive as their back was sliced open. Their ribs were detached from their spine and their lungs pulled through the opening to form a pair of bloody wings. So that's number 4.
The lungs were the wings.
The lungs were the wings. Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, bro. Number 3, molten gold. All right. This is made pretty famous in Game of Thrones.
Viserys.
A crown for a king, right?
Yeah.
Molten gold, they wouldn't go over the top of the head. They would get boiling gold and open your throat and put a funnel in it and just pour the gold into your body so it burnt and eviscerated your internal organs while you sat there and screamed. Don't hit.
That don't hit even a little bit.
Number 2, and I think this is the one that's most like impaling, is the timely classic. If you're any Bible fans out there, you're going to know what I'm talking about. Crucifixion. We all know this one. By the way, I don't know if you know this with crucifixion, but the goal again was not to die immediately. How they
Mm-hmm.
died was it was asphyxiation. A lot of people think it was blood loss, but it wasn't. So what would happen was they would nail your wrists and your feet to a cross. And what was happening was if you dangled and hung, it would like cut off your ability to breathe. So they would have to like push up with their feet so that they were able. And what would happen is eventually they would get tired and they couldn't do it anymore. They'd slump over and they'd die. And what also happened is that if there was someone who like it was taking him too long to die, the Roman soldier would just go over there with a mallet and break his legs so that he was like, ugh. And it's like, dog, if you're going to do that, just smash their fucking head. But like, it was all about
Mm-hmm.
torture back then. My opinion, number one way to die, and this is torture. And this was also made famous on Game of Thrones, rat torture. Trae, do you want to explain rat torture?
So put a metal bucket over somebody's guts, right? And there's a rat trapped under the bucket. Then you take some kind of heating implement and heat up the bucket so the rat loses its shit and has no other recourse but to
Eat its way
burrow
out
through the person's
through your
gut.
heart. Yes,
Yeah,
it's
right.
pretty rough. So thank you all. That was top 5 ways
So
to die, sponsored by BetterHelp.
see
So
that so that's that's one of the things where it's like people I keep in mind stuff like that sometimes in terms of perspective when people talk about like, the decay of our society and
yeah,
all this
it was
shit and everything
worse.
that's going. It's like, bro, we ain't doing that. I mean, look,
No,
people are getting tortured and shit around the world every minute of the day. Somebody's getting tortured somewhere.
and they're
But
doing that
like,
in Saudi Arabia, I'm sure.
yeah, right. But that was like state
Commonplace.
sanctioned. That
Everybody
was
did it.
like this was
People
like this
watched
is
it.
just the way it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And we ain't like that no more. So at least that pretty low bar, but still better.
So let's get to his name. He was Vlad the Third, which also known as Vlad Dracula, because that Dracula means son of the dragon in Romanian, and this name comes from his father's membership in the Order of the Dragon, which was a chivalric or chivalric,
Chivalric, I think.
which was dedicated to fighting against the Ottoman Empire. They were big. The Ottoman Empire was like the big boss in Vlad's life. And he's also, like I said, he's not from Transylvania. He's from Sighisoara, Romania, right? So he was a kid. He was born. His daddy was the king or the prince. So they've got different words for it over there. I'll get to that later. And while he's a little bitty child, he was captured by the Ottomans in 1462. He's imprisoned in the tower in Constantinople, which is modern day something. It's said that he spent several years in this tower where he learned Turkish, Persian. He became fluent in many other languages, and so he is a captive, but he's a captive sort of in the same way that Theon from Game of Thrones was a captive, right? And
He's more of a
he's
ward.
more of a ward. They
Yeah.
really liked him. Like they didn't treat him like shit at all. Like he was like one of them, or all, and also kind of like so. Their whole point in doing this was to keep him close and sort of like have him there so that when their daddy was doing over there doing some shit that the Ottoman Empire didn't like, they're like, we could kill your son, and he was like, okay, fine, whatever. And they were keeping him there so that he could one day rule, but he would be indoctrinated by all their shit. So it was sort of like,
Yeah, right.
was it Miller's Crossing when they had the like Italian or the Irish kid go over to the Italian mob, like they gave him up? It was
I
either that
think
or the
so.
second. It was the Fargo one with Chris Rock, but there was like they traded kids. Where it's like you're going to grow up with the Italians, they're going to grow up with you. That way, you grow up in this world, and we always have a connection to the other family.
They did do that in Fargo, didn't
It
they?
was Fargo. It was the Chris Rock
The
season.
show, the
Yeah,
show
yeah,
Fargo,
the
yeah.
show. So I couldn't remember if it was that or Miller's
Constantinople,
Crossing, but they're Coen brothers.
Istanbul, by the way, which
Istanbul,
I
yeah.
thought maybe, but
Yeah.
it is.
I knew it was a Coen brothers thing, but I was like, is it Miller's Crossing or whatever? If you hadn't seen Miller's Crossing, by the way, one of the most underrated Coen brothers movies. I gotta say
The
that.
show Fargo also hit. They have nothing to do with the show, but it's very
but
much
it
Coen
does hit.
Brothers and it super hits.
So he finally like escapes or whatever. They let him go, and he's like, okay, the Ottoman Empire, they're fucking pretty all right. Well, he gets back, and his father and his brother had been killed, and he lost his fucking mind, and he decided then and there the Ottoman Empire will rue the fucking day. A lot of and this goes back to something that happened a lot then. I feel like ruining was like,
Mm-hmm.
this was a good time to rue. You know what I mean? I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if we rue as
Ruin was
much,
huge.
but like a lot of stories from history where someone does some badass shit is predicated upon someone deciding that these people would rue
We'll rue
a
the day.
certain day.
Yes.
Yeah. There was one time a bunch of Ottoman princes and noblemen showed up to visit Vlad.
Okay. Go ahead. I think I was gonna. I had a vague memory of.
No,
I'm pretty
say
sure
it.
this story, but keep going. Does he lock them inside of a place and then?
That's later. That's later. That's later. That's
Okay.
later.
All right.
That's like Red
Go ahead.
Wedding. Red Wedding. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Okay.
that's why I keep mentioning Game of Thrones, because like this is so much all of that. But no, once a bunch of Ottoman princes and noblemen showed up to visit Vlad, and they wouldn't take off their turbans. Went in the room with him, and Vlad took offense to it, and they said like, "Hey, don't worry about it. It's just part of our culture." And Vlad was like, "Oh well, that you know what? That's my bad. Let me help you out then. Let's make sure that those turbans don't fall off." So he nailed all the turbans to their fucking heads. Then he
Yeah.
also
I wouldn't go visit Vlad
no, me,
if it was up
fuck
to
no,
me.
dude. He once paid sick people to go to the Ottoman Empire and spread germs to them, like give them medieval AIDS or whatever. And now this is the thing that you were talking about. One time there was this group of Wallachian noblemen who apparently the Wallachians, who I kind of want to talk about separately, they were like fucking rednecks, like of that area. They're called the Boyers, and they had at one point overthrown Vlad's father. And so Vlad was like, he really wanted him gone, but he was like, I can't just like infiltrate, they'll see me coming. So he invited them all to a banquet to be like, hey, let's let bygones be bygones, and then well, it's fine, you took my daddy away, but like I'm here now and it's okay. And so he gets them all in this banquet hall, and then right before they're about to serve dessert, he locked the doors and individually fucking impaled all of them,
Yeah.
much like Walter Frey
Mm-hmm.
in the Red Wedding.
Yeah, see, I don't know the chronological order of all these things, but I'm saying
I don't
like
either.
all it would take is one of these things for it to make it less likely that the rest of them would happen if I was involved. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
even one of these stories, the subsequent stories, be like, yeah, I ain't going over there. I
Yeah,
ain't
right. No.
a banquet at that dude's house.
Uh-uh.
The dude with the yard full of stick corpses.
Right.
I'm good.
So I want to
They
get
probably didn't have a choice though. That's
no.
just the way it was
I
back
mean,
then.
yeah. I mean, back then it's just like if Vlad hollers at you, you're like, well, either go there, he's going to come here. Maybe a
Mhm.
dinner would be nice. So when the Ottomans invaded Wallachia for the second time in 1462, Vlad used a tactic known as scorched earth to deprive the Ottoman army of resources. He destroyed his own cities and his own crops so that they didn't have anything to pillage. Like he was just like, I'll fucking burn it down. Y'all want this? I ain't gonna let y'all have it. And then when they were all walking around like super confused, he sucked his army on them. And in one day, they impaled 20,000 motherfuckers outside the city of Targovist. He also used to boil people.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's fun. And like I said, to many of the Romania, he's considered a folk hero because despite all the bad things about him, he did liberate them from the Ottomans. So that was good. And it wasn't actually until after the popularization of the vampire mythology and the presumed connection between Count Dracula and Vlad that he really became a villain in history. Like he actually, it was kind of like, no, like, oh, Vlad, that's a good guy, whatever. And then like, everybody's like, well, did y'all know that Dracula is based on this motherfucker? And realistically, Dracula, like Bram Stoker didn't know really about this dude and decide to make Dracula. From what I've read, like he was already working on
Yeah.
Dracula, but he didn't have a name for Dracula because he's not
Right.
from Transylvania or anywhere like that. But he was talking to this dude who was like a professor, and that guy was just telling him a bunch of shit about the area. And he mentioned fucking Vlad the Impaler, and he was like, "Oh my God, Jesus Christ, that guy's wild." And they were like, "Yeah," and his dad's name was this, and so they called him Dracula, and he was like, "Oh fuck, that's the guy." So when it comes to things like people said that like when Vlad was fucking like when he killed people at that dinner or whatever and their blood went everywhere, he would dip his bread in it and eat it. And
Oof.
there's also rumors that he would drink people's blood because he thought that it gave you like virility and all that shit. But my point is that like there's so much of him is mythology, and there's not really much to know what was real and what is like said because of Dracula. Like you hear that he's based on Dracula and they go, yeah, I used to drink blood. Yeah, I used to, you know what I'm saying? So like, I
Yeah.
can't really, and a lot of people can't, like a lot of these historians that are right, they're like, we don't really know if this part actually happened or if Bram Stoker writes this book and then people start making up these things and it gets written down and it's just like as good as history. But you know, a little bit more before we get to the airmail, he wasn't, it kind of sounds like that he's just some sort of like, you know, brutish dumbass. He was actually insanely educated. Like he knew all about like Transylvanian martial arts and stuff. He studied all the time. He spoke a fuck ton of languages. He was an insanely brilliant tactician. It's just that like, you know, impaling people is sort of like when you fuck a goat.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's the headline. That's
yeah.
going to be the headline
Yeah,
every
yeah,
time.
that's
Yeah.
gonna, yeah, exactly. So that is Vlad the Impaler, a gruesome, gruesome motherfucker. And now let's get to some airmail right before you have to go, Trae. Wonderful episode. I thought it was wonderful. Hey, this is, I have to read this one because this guy was talking about the Masters and we asked him for additional information and he emailed back. Writing in again since Corey wanted more information. Glad to do it so long as my name doesn't get out. I'm only about 10% kidding when I say that club has eyes and ears everywhere. We're talking about Augusta National and the Masters, by the way. I've seen some craziness. Feel free to read as much or as little as you want. The first time I encountered the big party was my first year covering the tournament in 2018. The Media Center is a huge state-of-the-art building that was built around 2016. It has theater seating for everyone covering the tournament and also has a cafeteria since, depending on their role, some people don't actually venture out onto the course much. The main lobby has all the sandwiches and foods you can find on the course, but each day I also saw the cafeteria serve up high-end food. I remember steak, etouffee, insanely good fried chicken, etc. When Sunday rolled around, I thought they might have something special, but the menu was a repeat of an earlier day. No, I wanted this to be about orgies. Let me scroll through here and see if there's anything. Carts of crab legs and lobster. Okay, that hits. Many of the club members still young enough to party were sloppy drunk, and they are the nicest people in the world. Okay. Uh, I'm interested in the Masters, but I thought this was going to be some orgy shit. So thank you, anonymous contributor. I will move on though. If you have some like death stories or whatever, I would like you to send
I
those
just read
back
a
in.
story from a guy that worked back behind the scenes in the NFL, and he was like, he was in charge of the visiting team's facilities. So whenever the visiting team came in, they had to get their shit for him and everything. And he said whenever Andy Reid's Eagles, so this is years ago when Andy
Yeah,
Reid was with the Eagles, Andy Reid's Eagles would come in, that Andy Reid had a very specific layout for the desk that he required
yeah,
in the facility, and everything had to be in its place. And the guy
barbecue
said
sauce.
it's got, I swear to God, the guy said he's like he had a very specific spot for his like pens. He had a very specific spot for his candy bars. He had a very specific spot for his, you know, tissues or whatever. I was like, candy bars. Like, yeah, you got to have, you know, he had a candy bar part of his desk, which I
Of
thought was
course he
pretty great.
did. That is wonderful. Subject line: poop, boys, etc. Update. Just wanted to tell you all what I read about Charles, the king. We think this is so funny. I assume that this person is a British person. Okay, he supposedly has a toothpaste butterer, as my husband and I like to call it. He actually has some guy who has to always have his toothbrush ready and waiting for him to use, and the toothpaste has to be exactly 1 inch long in the mornings. He also demands his shoelaces are ironed. So there is a guy who does nothing else but iron his shoelaces. Whenever he travels, he takes his own toilet seat and Kleenex velvet toilet paper roll with him. His pajamas are pressed every morning. His bath plug has to be in a certain position, and the water temperature has to be just tepid, and the tub exactly half full. This is just standard stuff here. Whenever Charles goes into the world, he takes his special breakfast box with him, which is 6 different types of honey, some special mueslis, basically oatmeal with a bunch of things added to it, some special dried and fresh fruit, and he insists his cheese and biscuits are warmed to a certain temperature at the end of meals and makes his staff keep a warming tray nearby. He's been doing crap like this since he was the Prince of Wales, and since he and Camilla have been living together / married, he has added more fancy demands to his list. Whenever he goes to visit a friend in the country, his staff arrives first in a big truck filled with his special needs. Stuff like his bed, his furniture, his rugs, his pictures for the walls, and of course, his special toilet seat. and velvet toilet paper. I'll just bet he has an ass wiper too. There you go.
Good to be the king.
It is good to be the king. We appreciate y'all watching or listening to Puttin on Airs. Remember, if you're just listening, you can go to watchpoa.com, subscribe, download, tell all your friends, help us help the show grow. Stay fancy, motherfuckers. And yeah.
Skew.
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 Here's Lydia Lovelace.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Royalty and rednecks are alike. They both like cutting and picking fights. Biscuits and baked beans where they don't belong. Sit on down with Corey and Trae and learn some fancy shit today. We'll laugh a little even when they're wrong. They'll take you to a magical place where if you call someone a cunt, nobody cares. They keep it debonair at Puttin on Airs. Puttin on Airs. Puttin on Airs.